Okay, we're live now.
Hello,
Okay,
sir.
welcome to the first episode of our roundtable of the 13 Nights, dear sir.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, please introduce yourself to the listeners.
Well, you can call me Ilo, like Milo, but less of a faggot, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds you miss like an M. Maybe you got the M from taking it up the bum. I don't know.
I, I don't dislike the guy, but he- at the same time, he's a faggot. He's
Yeah,
probably not a
I
good
don't mind
listener.
if he long as he keeps his private shit private and don't bother any other people with this. Finally.
Yeah, pretty much. But I think he still was a good influence for a lot of people. I mean, he allowed a lot of people to say like, I agree with him, and but that's okay because he's first of all he's a Jew, then he's a faggot, and he likes black dick. So that allowed a lot of
Yeah.
people to say like, I'm not racist or sexist or homophobic, and I still believe this shit. I mean, Donald Trump should win, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, but Donald Trump is also he's doing stuff. I don't think that he's 100% clean, and I don't think I think he's a puppet anyway.
Well, I'm not so sure because he seemed like a pretty straightforward guy during the election. Like, I
Yeah,
don't think he's. No, go ahead.
yeah. He was like straightforward guy, but then I think they just were like, okay, if you don't do what we say, we're gonna fuck you. So
Oh
I
yeah,
think
that
pussified
yeah
basically.
yeah I believe that as well. But I think he's still like trying. I don't think he's the kind of guy to give up. And sometimes in battles you have to lay low for a bit and pretend like you're even if you're in prison, you're a prisoner of war. Like you can't go like full berserk on the first day. You have to plan your insurrection, and I think he's trying to do that. If he'll succeed or not, that's a different question, and it might go either way. But I think he's not totally lost for the good side.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Actually, it's like I think it's gonna be like doing sneaky moves, like just sneaking one in, and then basically that they can't do anything against him, making it public and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, you see it when, for example, when he goes on Twitter, is like back to the old self. Like he really gives it to the. Like, for example, did you see the thing with Rosie O'Donnell
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
we fired Comey, and then now Rosie, you finally have something we agree on. That was pretty funny, and I think like when he gets the chance, he's the old Donald Trump again, but then like he gets all these motherfuckers on his back telling him, for example, the his foreign policy has been pretty bad, like bombing Assad or pro Assad shit, even though Assad is probably the only sane person in that region. It's
Yeah,
pretty
stuff
sad.
like that. But I think that war's already gonna way out of control anyway.
Yeah, I agree, but you know that Middle East is a fucking confusion, and partly it's because of the United States intervening in that fucking region for so long. But at the same time, when you read that stuff about Muslims interbreeding and marrying their cousins and having children with their cousins, and this shit will go bad pretty quickly because it just will. It's against nature pretty much.
Yeah, it is. It is the problem. I think what they have, they're gonna be having a lot of trouble later on with gene pool, and there, you know how there's gonna be those. Yeah, not the IQ is gonna lower and lower and lower, and you just end up with a lot of those special needs people, and then they're having like the infrastructure needed for that, and so on and so on. It depends how they act on it, actually.
Yeah, I agree. And what I see is that this is exactly what the elites want. So first, they want the Middle Eastern people to just become the lowest common denominator, and they've already started this way back in the 80s when the Reagan wanted to, well, they basically overthrew the government of Iran, and then they had this fucking uh, dictator that was insane. And I don't know if you know this, but they banished music. They literally, put people in prison and killed people for making and listening to music, like any music, basically anything that had instruments, which is
Yeah,
pretty insane.
but if you look at now in the social justice war on people, it's the same shit basically. You can't say shit what you want. You can't do this. You can't. It's basically technically it's the same as an Islamic state. What they would do, like you can't do this. You have to wear this, and it's the same. If you don't want to be involved in their rhetoric, you dead to them. So it doesn't matter if you're gonna be like living in a Muslim country or some leftist ruled country where you can only live when you agree with the main thing that is pushed out.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why you see like these Antifa assholes and beta males uh, joining Islam with the most insane, like, because technically or supposedly they are in opposite sides of the spectrum, but in practice they're working together. Like, for example, you see Paris, you see these footage from Paris, and it's
Yeah,
fucking
but in
crazy.
Paris, they're not agreeing with any of the candidates. To be fair, they don't want this central guy, and they don't this mama's boy. Man, he's like. To be fair, they should have like this wife should have been in jail. In all fairness.
Yeah, because I mean, she's a pedophile. But
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's part of it, actually. I don't know if you've seen this, but Vice and Slate have been pushing pedophilia really hard. What the fuck is wrong with these people? They pretty much want to make pedophilia the new trans thing. Like, first it was gays, then it was bisexuals, then it was transgender, and now it's pedophilia. They want to make fucking pedophilia a thing. Like, that's normal. Love is love. That was actually a hashtag on Twitter. Like, what
Yeah,
the fuck?
it's a bit ridiculous. I mean, yes, as long as you keep it in your bedroom and don't bother anyone with it, I don't mind what the fuck you're doing there. But I mean, if you're gonna push it to school children and gonna fuck them up in the head, and they're gonna be 10 and they're gonna think, oh, I was a guy, but I think I want to be a girl and all that shit. That's not good.
No, they're
That's too
fucking
far.
insane, man. But did you see this thing in Slate where they had this guy? Well, I wouldn't call him a guy. He's not even a guy. He's a fucking monster piece of shit. That basically he assumes he's a pedophile, and he's the babysitter, or not a babysitter, like he's a sitter for I think an 8-year-old girl or something. And he writes these articles saying like, I have to go to the bathroom to jerk off because I can't control myself, but I don't touch her, so I'm fine. Fuck you. Come on, what the fuck? This really gets me like
Yeah, it's something. There's something wrong in their head, and I know that there's probably some therapy they can follow and that sort of stuff, and I think they should, and I think they should not be even allowed to be tempted.
yeah, exactly. Like, the problem is, of course, there's these people. There's people who are fucked up in the head. That's, be it the transgender who don't know who the fuck they are because they've been so brainwashed by the media and by the schools and everything. I mean, yeah, they need help, but the problem with the left is that they don't want to help them. They want to accept their mental illness.
Yeah,
They want to force
exactly.
their mental illness on everybody else.
Yeah,
It's
but it's also a thing. Yeah, that nobody does anything wrong. Everybody needs to be accepted for what they are, and when you do something wrong, oh, we'll forgive you, and then everybody else that gets affected by your actions, fuck them, and then they're gonna be like, oh yeah, but you couldn't only give him 2 years, and then he gets like psychological help and all this bullshit, and then you spend so much money on taxes just to get these people back into society, even though they don't deserve it in my eyes. They fucked up, and they need to
yeah,
suffer the consequences. It's very easy.
exactly. That's, I mean, if you don't punish this kind of behavior, or if you don't just remove them from normal society, you're basically saying that society doesn't matter. That nothing matters basically. It's like the supposed refugees that rape children and rape women all the time, and then they go free because it was a sexual emergency or it's part of their culture and all this bullshit. How the fuck do they allow this?
Yeah,
I,
it's like letting the rabbits loose and saying they did not know what they were doing.
yeah, in a way, they are the left treats these people like, like not real humans capable of being responsible for their own actions. They don't, if you see other people, whatever their race or whatever their preferences are, and if you treat them like humans, you hold them responsible for their choices. But the left is saying, no, no, they're not human. We need to allow them to do this shit because they're not really human. We need to need
Yeah,
to be friendly.
they're basically saying, yeah, they're just dumb children, and it's a lot of stuff is also coming. You know, MGTOW, for instance.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of stuff what they're saying is basically women do not take responsibility, and it's the same what the government is doing now. Like they don't take responsibility. They want all the benefits, but they don't want to take the responsibility or take hard action or like giving people the responsibility to do something.
I think that most of these lefties are just. I think most of them are actually insane, like literally insane. Like if it was 20 years ago, they would just be committed to an institution because they just are insane. They, there's no other
Yeah,
way to
they
look at
are
it.
actually quite insane. And yeah, I would say that it's mostly what they just letting them walk. Like it's not even that they're doing much, but they're just walking with the insanity.
Yeah, exactly. They're accepting everything as if it's normal. And pretty much all of human history, we had to deal with these things, but we didn't consider them normal. We considered them insanity, basically. And
Yeah, it's basically the moral values that a society has. You just try to find the boundaries for it. So you every time you push the boundaries further of this moral dilemmas, and basically in one way you're gonna make the nobody responsible for anything, and then one day nothing is gonna work because nobody's responsible for it. Basically.
yeah, it's it's infuriating at times, and but sometimes it's quite funny actually. I was I was watching this. I just found out about this channel called what is it? Common Filth, I think. Do you know about this one?
No, I haven't seen this one.
If you ever want to be depressed, and depends on your what mood you are, but yesterday I was quite tired and it just got me really depressed. And basically it's this channel has a lot of, I only watched a couple of videos, but has some series like called Tumblristas and Vine compilation, and it's basically the most, for example, I was watching this one. It was children, either some of them were really children like 9, 10 years old, and others were teenagers, and it was like, I don't have a gender, like am I a man, am I a woman, like all this kind of confusion that they're pushing on children. This is child abuse, nothing short of that. And if you watch these compilations, it gets at least it got me yesterday really down. But if I today I'm a little bit more chilled out, so I might go watch and it might be funny. But it's both funny and depressing at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. It is quite depressing if you see some of them in action. I see like workplaces pushing diversity and so on is also getting insane at the moment.
Yeah, there was this fuck this well, first of all, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, we had at the office, so I was working and I got an email, and there was a refugee aid drive, so you can give like food and shit to the fake refugees. Even though I'm in Portugal, and they don't come here, even though uh, some of them are already settling, unfortunately, and you can see a lot of this shit in Lisbon already. But nothing compared to Germany and France and Britain. But they had this thing like, oh, let's help the refugees, let's give them food because we don't pay enough taxes to fucking help them. Like, it's fucking insane. And then recently, we already talked about this, but there was this stupid LGBT inclusiveness crap that
Yeah, did you
like
go to that meeting or not?
no, of course not. First of all, I have work to do, and I would only go if they force me. But it's not at that point yet, at least in Portugal. Uh,
Yeah,
Thankfully.
but you only see the useless people in the office going to that shit, right?
Yeah, I actually don't know if anyone that I know of went. I think I prefer to not know, because if I knew, I probably would not treat that person the same way. But
Yeah, I agree.
but I have to say, at least I can still make some pretty outlandish comments at work, and people just take it, this guy has a dark sense of humor or something, and I can still talk a little bit when it comes up, when about race and shit. I can still say some things that are true, and people will not automatically report me to HR. But maybe that will change, because I see when I go on Reddit and see some of some of the people talking about this shit, and that they are completely persecuted, and some of them get fired for this. It's uh, it's
Yeah,
disgusting,
it
really.
happens already a lot. You just need to make yourself indispensable for the company, that they cannot fire you. Just they need you more than for money. Then they're gonna care about some bullshit about you're not being completely lefty.
Yeah, of course. But the most important thing to do at your job, it's actually to do your job, and if you do it well, it's harder for them to dismiss you. But at the same time, I think, like in England and in Britain and in the United States or even Germany, like it's at a point that even if they're valuable, they are forced out anyway.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
they,
but
they
there's a
don't
lot of
care.
campaigns now for diversity and pushing, like, oh, this company is not for only men, women can work here, people from other countries can work here, yada yada yada.
Yeah, I could see that when we had the Women's Day, International Women's Day, and it was disgusting. Like,
Because I know how it goes here, but how do people do that in Portugal? I will tell you after about
well,
Poland, but
basically, I don't know. I've been at that company for 3 years, maybe more. I don't know exactly right now, because I've already drank a lot of whiskey. But anyway, uh, I maybe I didn't pay attention before, but I think this year was a lot worse. They had all these, like, equality, and like it was really pushed hard. Everything, like there were posters, and every in celebrations, and there was special gifts for women. And I mean, I'm all for giving gifts for women, but don't give gifts just because they're women, because some women are really really fucking dumb. I mean, some of them, the ones I talked to that were real women, they were actually equally bothered by this shit. They thought this was too much, because it is. I mean, where's the men's day? Yeah, I actually asked that of a manager, and they said, "Oh, maybe we'll do something." And they won't do anything.
no, 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 no. No, actually, in Poland it's even more funny because it's actually a proper Women's Day, I would say. Because the last time I was here, well, when it was here, I landed on the airport, and what they do is they give flowers to every woman. So basically, at the airport, there was a guy waiting, and every woman that came off the plane, they gave a flower to.
Even if they were covered from head to toe, and you could really tell they were a
Oh,
woman.
those people don't want to come in this country, so don't worry about that. But
Well, I don't know if they don't want to come, or if they just don't.
they're not
Because
getting any benefits here. So
yeah, did you see what I think was the Polish prime minister, or something like that? Yeah, because they were Macron, now, that fucking asshole, is talking about putting what was it?
yeah, he wants to
Putting
boycott
sanctions.
Poland. You
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
Yeah,
So
because he doesn't. You know what is the problem? the fucking wanker. I don't know if we can say this. Probably we can say this because we have no advertising, so it's good.
Yeah, it's fine.
He's complaining because he wants to send more refugees to Poland, but he doesn't see that we're taking on all these Ukrainians that are coming fleeing from an actual war. You know,
Yeah,
fighting Russians. I'm
and
not.
not
I
just
don't want.
that. I mean, I'm not against taking refugees. First, if they're fleeing an actual war, and if they stay in the place that got them in the first place,
First, yeah, but
and
Poland is next to the Ukraine, so they're taking them first. But the problem is they're white, so they're white refugees. So we don't give a shit about them. That's how
yeah,
it works, and that's
but
retarded.
that's one of the reasons why it's okay to take them, because it won't create a fucking disruption in the whole culture and in the whole country. Like if you like Poland is, I've never been there, but my girlfriend has been there, and she, she's Portuguese, so she has brown hair, and she doesn't have really. I'm whiter than my skin is whiter than than her skin. So she's told me like, I think she considered me like a Muslim or something, even though she was. It was during the summer, so she was totally dressed like a normal person, not like a slut,
Hmm.
but not dressing like a normal person. But they, she felt a little bit like, they're looking at me. Maybe they think I'm Muslim or something. So there is this thing. Like it's not just cultural. It's also the way you look. And if you're not blonde, I mean, Poland is mostly blonde
Well,
and white.
no, I think it's I think the thing with Polish people is they hear all these stories about Europe, all these rapes and all this other crap, terrorist attacks. They are looking, they're like, what's this new person in my neighborhood?
Yeah, and that's the same thing to do. I mean, my girlfriend was saying this, that she felt a little bit like some of the people were looking at her a little funny, but at the same time, she understood like it's normal with all the shit that's happening and all these brown people that they're importing to other countries. I mean, it's normal. It's just normal.
Yeah. No,
Not
but the other time, I think it was a stabbing. It was in the winter somewhere. There was a guy stabbed, the Polish guy, in a kebab shop because he was in a fight with some people or something. And then there was a riot, and then I think in my town there was some Pakistani guy was beaten up, and then they were holding a meeting against some lefties were holding a meeting against violence against foreigners. And I think they also had one time when there was some issues with people speaking different languages in the tram. They held a meeting for we're gonna talk in all sorts of different languages in the tram or on the station for the tram. And then there was one guy asking, "Okay, can I join with English?" And then the girl answered like, "English? Is there a problem with this? I don't think so."
because
Shit like
everybody, I don't know how it is in Poland, but I think they speak a lot of English in general, at least the young
that.
people.
No, the general population doesn't speak English.
Not even the young people.
No.
That's I was thinking about that the other day. It's both a blessing and a curse. And what I mean by that is that, right now you had this fucking stupid global consumerist culture. So everybody, at least in Western Europe, and not as much in Eastern Europe, but everybody in Western Europe, maybe not France, because they're, the French are cooked anyway, but
Yeah.
in Portugal and even in Spain, a lot of people already speak English, and they watch all these English movies and
Yeah, they watch all the English propaganda.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
people here
But
go to the movie theaters as well with Polish subtitled, and but there's a lot of still making Polish movies, like proper Polish movies that they watch. So
yeah, but my point was that we need to use this, even though this is not the ideal situation. Because if we lived in homogeneous societies, the Portuguese would speak Portuguese mostly, and the Polish would speak Polish, and the French would speak French, and the English would just speak English, because they don't never learn any other languages. They're just that Anglo-centered. But anyway, if you
mm,
had these homogeneous societies, you would need to learn other languages, or you would learn them, but it would be like a natural thing, not because it is forced upon by this stupid corporate elite upon you. But since we have this culture, this you could say it's a global culture in a sense, because everybody or a lot of people now speak English. Like I'm Portuguese and I'm speaking English with you, and you're Dutch and you're speaking English with me.
Yep.
But I think we have to use that, we in the in the reactionary sphere, or whatever you want to call it. We need to use that to reach more people. Like I'm trying to use English to reach the actually the people who are more educated in Portugal, because I think we don't need to appeal to the masses, at least not right
No, we
away.
need to have the ones with the brains, and then the rest hippies will
Exactly.
follow.
Exactly. That's what I think. And so we need to use this English supremacy, if you can call it that. Maybe I sound like a social justice warrior or whatever, but I think we can use this to influence people on a global scale, because it's becoming a global scale. And of course, uh, I don't look like a Swedish guy. I'm not Scandinavian, and I probably the alt right people in Scandinavia would look at me and say, well, "Are you really white or something?" But I don't care
No,
about
but I
those
don't think
guys.
it's that bad. I think the European citizens should just stand united, and it includes the Spanish, and it includes the Serbians, and it includes the Bulgarians, and I even think that would include the Ukrainians and the Russians in a
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, totally. For me, the Russia. I mean, even during communism, they had such vibrant, for example, musical culture or literature. And for example, a lot of Russian guys immigrated to the United States, but and they started writing in English, like Nabokov and what was the other guy, Solzhenitsyn or whatever his name is. They wrote in English, but at the same time, they still kept this very Russian mentality, or even Ayn Rand. I don't know if you know these guys, but they still kept a very Russian culture. And musically, for example, the classical music, even during communism, was very, very interesting. So, of course, I include Russia in the European peoples, and nothing to do with. I don't know, Iraq or something. Nothing to do with that. For me, they're part of. Even though we're Portugal is like the most Western country in Europe, and Russia is the most Eastern. To me, we're still part of the same Christian core, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I just think Europe should unite again, because I think what's happening now, they're just puppeted out to the big empire in the West, the Americans. So basically, I think every European nation is just falling in line behind the US.
And that has good things and bad things, because right now you have a guy in power that I think he can't really say it, and he says like, I'm the first president for gay marriage, and I'm the first, like, I'm not really an ethno nationalist. I want immigration as long as it's legal. But I think that's just because he can't come out right, come out and say it clearly, that he understands. I think he understands the problem, that we can't bring these people from different races, completely fucking different cultures, that want to rape children. And I think he understands that, and he just doesn't come out and say it because he can't. But I think Trump understands it, and maybe for now it's a good thing that the Americans have such an influence, because I think Trump influenced Europe in a sense. Like you see these with the identitarians in France. Uh,
Mm,
I think it's somehow related. It's not totally disconnected. Do you think it is?
I would think that, like, they're saying Europe is gonna die and shit. Like the Americans are basically saying, yeah, Europe is dead now, and they're all crazy there, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, some of the people. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, Europe is already over a lot older than the Americans. The Americans are around for maybe 200 years now, and I mean, there's European countries that are already like 1,000 years old. So,
Yeah,
in all
Portugal, for
fairness, I
example.
think they overrate their power.
No, yeah, I agree with you in some sense. For example, Portugal was founded by kicking out the fucking Muslims. Like, but there wouldn't be a Portugal if our first king, if basically his whole kingdom was based on kicking out the Muslims from Europe, from
Yep.
the Iberian Peninsula, and the same with the Spanish. Like, we just don't want them here. And against, like, I've been reading a lot about this shit, and against what a lot of people think, there wasn't a lot of mixing in terms of intermarriage and shit, because first of all, the Muslims were just occupying. It was just an army, pretty much the same that we have now. There's no women and children. There's basically just military aged men invading Europe, and it was the same back then. Except back then, our countries and our peoples and our governments didn't think, yeah, that's okay. Let's let them in. That's fine. Let's let them fuck our women and have children and mix all these people up. They didn't think that, so they didn't allow that back then. So there isn't as much as people think, like miscegenation with the North Africans, for example.
Yeah.
Uh, even
But
though
in all
we're a little
fairness, North
darker.
Africa used to be Christian as well, and it was taken by the jihad.
Yeah,
Like Egypt even used to be Christian. So why can we accept now that it's a Muslim country? In all fairness.
yeah, I think that's the whole history of Islam, that they just conquer lands, and it's by force. You can't say that it's like the Christians that went to the New World and they tried to save the eternal souls of the Indians, for example, or native peoples or whatever. You can't call them Indians
No,
because they're
they
racist.
also made a mess with colonization and stuff, but they at least in I would say the Spanish territories and the Portuguese territories, they didn't like ethnically cleanse it, because I think in the Americas after the wars with the Indians and so on, and with the British, because the Indians fought alongside the British in the War of 1812,
Yep.
and basically the Americans decided to basically genocide them.
Well, that's an interesting question, because at the same time, yeah, they killed them. But why did they kill them? And this, this is a hard pill to swallow to a lot of people, and especially, I suppose, black people, like people from Africa. The Indians, whatever you can say, like they're inferior or whatever, and yeah, in a sense they weren't as advanced as the Europeans, but they did not just become slaves. They did not allow themselves to become slaves. They fought and fought and fought to, like, unlike the blacks who just allowed themselves to become slaves. The Indians fought, and they preferred to die than to become fucking slaves. And I admire more that attitude than just, let's just become slaves. Maybe if I was faced in that situation, maybe I would become a slave. But I don't know. I think I would rather die fighting than just become a slave. And
Yeah, of course. But also the most of the blacks that were captured by other blacks in Africa and were sold for this slavery,
yeah,
most
but
of them
still,
also were from weaker tribes, so they were already like disadvantaged, I think, anyway, like they were already defeated.
yeah, no. Of course, like, if they weren't weaker, they wouldn't have become slaves. But at the same time, come on, there needs to be. I don't know. It's a strange question, but you could say, like, for example, the Indians weren't that much more advanced, or the Incas, or, well, the Incas were a little bit more, but they were a shit, the crazy batshit place. But the Indians weren't that much more advanced than the Africans at that point. They were still, like, for example, the Mayans had invented the wheel. They had roads, but they
Yeah, but
didn't
they
have
also,
cars.
if you look at the different of the buildings, they had whole pyramids and cities, and in Africa they were still living in all this. Well, there was places where they also had sort of cities, but most places they just had mud huts.
No, no, yeah, yeah, of course. But you also had a lot of mud huts in South America and in America. And what I was going to say is that I don't know if you've ever heard this, but for example, the Mayans, or was it the Incans? I'm not sure. But one of these civilizations, they've basically built enormous roads, and they invented also. They had toys for children with wheels, like little cars. So they knew about the concept of the wheel, and they knew about the concept of roads. but they never applied it to let's build a fucking car that's big enough to transfer things. So they would transfer things on their backs instead of creating cars, even though they knew about what a wheel
Well,
was.
maybe they had cards, but maybe the evidence was just lost for him, because I think still a lot of evidence for like old civilizations is also lost in time. In all
You think
fairness,
so?
for instance, clothes, roads, wood, stuff like that, it rots, so you lose the evidence.
Well, it's possible. Yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm an expert on it. So it's quite possible. But the evidence that it still stands that even the the Indians that lived in mud huts, they did not allow themselves to become slaves. They would rather die and fight till the last man and last child. It's a bit like the Romans when they arrived on the Iberian Peninsula. They met the Lusitanians, which is basically the most Portuguese and the basic Portuguese people are descended from those people. And
Hmm.
the Romans say that when they arrived here, the Lusitanians would first, they had the stone houses and stone buildings and stuff, and like sort of churches or temples or whatever. They would pick up the stones and just throw at the Romans to fight back. So first they threw the stones. The stones didn't work because the Romans were more advanced, of course. And so then they would start to throw the wood, like the wood that they have in their house to for heat and stuff. So they threw the wood. The wood didn't work as well. So after that, they start to throw like the babies, just like anything is better than being a slave, basically. And for some reason, it's really weird, but and I know the Europeans were also enslaved by Islam or by the Muslims, but uh, most people fight back against slavery because in some primordial sense they think slavery is worse than death, and I think it is.
Yeah, but if you look in history, for instance, peasant revolts, there is so many freaking peasant revolts every freaking time. There, it's just like, okay, this shit is wrong, king, help us or something, and then the nobles will chop some up, or they will make do an agreement or something like that. There's loads of peasant revolts, but it's always like there's a few good leaders, and then the nobles come along and then they just chop off the head of the snake, basically. But they have to defuse the peasants first, and they have to appease them somehow. They just need to like break up the spirit. But I mean, if you look, for instance, to the French Revolution, that's like a peasant revolt gone completely out of proportion.
Actually, I don't think the French Revolution was a peasant uprising at all. I think it was, in a sense, the same thing that you see now with Antifa. You had these little fucking shits from the cities, and they just thought that the king is evil and the church is evil. So let's just kill everybody that doesn't agree with us. And there was this village in southern France where they decided to resist the revolution, and they killed everything. They burned their houses, they killed their people, their children, their dogs, their cats, their cattle, everything. The leftists just fucking killed everyone, and
Yeah,
they killed.
because there was it was the first revolution, like the first communist revolution, and
Yeah,
over.
exactly.
That's why I say that it was the same as the Russian Revolution that went wrong, because the people that started it, like the peasants, the soldiers, and so on, they wanted something changed because it didn't go their way. They had no food, they were getting slaughtered, they had the massive wars, they were just dying. They wanted something else. And the thing, what happened, what went wrong, the wrong people took charge of these revolutions, and that is where it went wrong. Because in the French one, for instance, there was a lot of bureaucracy in the top, and they were just
A lot of what?
like,
Sorry.
a lot of pen pushers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly.
So
Like the
basically,
intellectuals.
they were just like, okay, yeah, this guy, he's not very faithful to our cause. Okay, let's shoot him. Okay, let's promote a new guy. So basically, they just shot the whole hierarchy of the whole army, and they just replaced everybody. And then they lost again, and they shot the next bunch of generals and captains, and then just went along like that.
In general, I think all revolutions are pretty much bad, and I define revolutions not, for example, there were military coups in Europe, for example, in Portugal or in Italy with the fascists, and I don't consider those revolutions. I consider those counter revolutions, because what we had, for example, in Portugal, was you had all these communists in Lisbon, and like revolutionaries and all kind of crazies throwing bombs, like they were bombing grocery stores, and like normal people were getting killed for no reason whatsoever, just because these stupid lefties got in their head that everything was evil and we need to kill the king and everything. And I mean, of course, some of them were hungry, and the they weren't rich in by any sense, but everything, when you start just dethroning the natural order, and that's what we had in Europe before the French Revolution and before all the liberal crap. What it was a natural occurrence that has existed for thousands of years almost. And when they started to, it's like that saying, throwing away the baby with the bathwater. I think that's what revolutions do. And counter revolutions, on the other hand, they try to reestablish order in a sense, and that's what happened with
Yeah,
the fascists, for example.
yeah, you can see it as well. One is chaos and the other is order, I would
Yeah,
say.
I mean, both use violent means, because and we see that now. I really think it will reach civil war proportions in Europe at some point, because there won't be any other peaceful solution at this point. But it will either be like the final war for Europe, and our people will either disappear, or we'll win and we'll reestablish order that we haven't had for 100 years, maybe.
This most of the time goes like that. It's like 100 years of peace, and then after that it starts again. It's the same with the Napoleonic Wars, and before that, and then you had World War Two, and like after 100 years, or World War One, after 100 years of peace in Europe. So it will start again.
So
But
so you think
I think at the moment we're gonna have something more like the Bosnian Serbian wars, something like that, the Balkan wars.
but you mean limited to that region, or
No, no, I mean like the style of that, like basically army units going around plundering people's houses that are not ethnically from Europe, and then they will just move along. So they will just like ethnically cleanse, I think, the people that are not belonging here. If they have
uh,
enough strength and there's no more United Nations to stop them, they will certainly do this.
well, I don't think it will be that easy, for two reasons. Well, first of all, the European population, like even the men, or especially the men, they're fucking effeminate. They just, you see these guys like refugees welcome. Like how the fuck do they accept this shit? It's disgusting. So I don't think those people will fight back in any sense. I really don't. I think they will just accept their new masters, whatever they are, be it the the European peoples or the new brown masters that they have. I think they will accept whatever comes to them, and they will be the first to die. So I don't think they will fight. And the second thing is that you have this huge infrastructure paid by European taxes, and now the European Union wants to create an army, a European army. So that will go fucking well. Those people will be paid to basically kill their own people. And you have already a lot of like everywhere, really, well, except in Eastern Europe, you have a lot of black people from Africa, some of them from the old colonies. But in any way, I don't think they will join the Europeans, even though they say that the people from Angola are culturally Portuguese. No, they're not. They will join the Muslims. They will join the other brown people, because all of them are taught that the white people are evil. And I don't think it's even their fault. It's just this propaganda that they hear, and that the white people hear as well. They will just join the other brown people in overthrowing the white people. That's what I think will happen. I don't think we can count on most black people to understand what's happening. and join the civilized part. I think they will join Islam, for the
I'm
most
not
part.
so sure about it because Islam is also having a lot of fucked up system. Because in Islam, the black people are even below. Like if you go to a refugee camp, all the Muslims are basically making the black people clean all the toilets and doing all the dirty work. So I'm not so 100% sure about that though.
Well, at the same time, you have the historical proof that they just they just fall back to slavery. Whenever you try to enslave them, they just go back to slavery. And you see that, for example, in Libya right now. Now that the United States decided that, let's overthrow Gaddafi, which actually was not such a bad guy as they say. They overthrew Gaddafi, and now you have slavery in Libya.
Yeah, yeah, you have slavery again, human trafficking. I don't know, just all the shitty things just back there. I agree.
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult situation, and I guess we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I think it will. I think we'll still have a tough years still ahead of us.
Well, and how do you see the Eastern Europe?
Well, I think Eastern Europe at the moment is quite all right. I think because the influx of people, refugees, is limited. I mean, for Hungary, for even White Russia. White Russia is not even with Europe, and you have Ukraine, of course, that is having a civil war. Then you have the Balkan countries like Lithuania, Estonia, and there's one more. Uh,
Latonia?
yeah, that one. Yeah. So basically, those countries, I think they're quite good, but it's also they don't give any benefits. Like the benefits that you would get here is maybe 100 euros if you would get any benefits at all. So you either come here to work or you're not coming at all. There's a lot of foreign people that come here to work, but they're coming here to work.
But even people from Islamic countries, or normal European people.
No, at the moment we have a lot of Algerians because they speak French.
Okay.
We have people from South America, Brazil, Suriname. I think we have someone from Venezuela. No, I not no 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 not Venezuela. Costa Rica. That's it, Costa Rica.
Okay.
So there's people from other places, but I think most of them are here like to get experience and then go home again later on.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know. Here in Portugal, you see a lot of mixed race couples, and I'm not one of those people from the alt right that thinks like, miscegenation is like this big evil. I don't think that's the case in every situation, but you see a lot of it, like a lot of these black and white couples and mixed children, and like a lot of them.
Yeah, I don't know why they keep pushing this because this is making diversity like everybody's brown. So I'm not so sure why they're pushing this so hard because they're not diverse at all. But the other point that I see here a lot is a lot of Spanish and Portuguese guys. They always have a nice Polish girlfriend. To be fair.
Well, they're smart. But no, but I'm not totally against that, but at the same time, I'm Portuguese. I have brown hair. Well, now it's going a little bit white because I'm getting older. But
Yeah, getting gray already.
yeah, a lot, man. During this last year, it's been insane. But I've always liked brunettes. That's just because they're my people. That's what my people are, and that's what I like. I never like had this thing like blondes are the hottest girls. Like I never had that because I'm Portuguese, and I think a lot of people have this thing about going for other races and other people that are not like them. I think they've been brainwashed. Honestly, I mean, not 100% of the cases, but you're just genetically trained to like what it's like you. Like
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I agree with this because I think it's genetically lane as well. But to be fair, I don't mind if it's European people.
I mean, it's not that I mind. Like, even for example, I know some interracial couples, like a guy that's white and a girl that's black, or even the other way around, and they're together because they share some, they like each other. They have common interests. They genuinely go well together as people, not just because one is black or one is white, whatever. But I think this massive miscegenation, like this massive interracial relationships, I think this is manufactured by the elites
Yeah,
because
to basically make it one metal push so that you can easily control them.
yeah, because if you strip away the identity of a people, they have nothing else. They will just accept this global consumerist culture that they just have to buy the next TV because they have nothing else to fall back on.
Yeah, I think it's mostly if you have no identity, like if you're stripped of your identity, you're looking for one, and they can fabricate one for you. They can make it by, by movies, by styles, by shops. You can fabricate the culture for these people, and that's I think what they're pushing for the mostly to push this out so that they can control what these people are doing, and not like they're this people. No, they're all the same shit.
Yeah, they because it's easier. There will always be a great majority of stupid people, or just people that are not interested in big questions, or in the philosophical part of existence. That will just always be the majority of the people. And whereas before you had religion, uh, uh, you know in forming people's perceptions and national identities and all this, right now people don't know what they are. They just, their identity is the last, the sneakers that they bought, or the last video game that they played. They just have no sense of what they are, and
Yeah,
it's easier to control them this way.
yeah, and it's also the consumer economics. Like you just buy and live for buying the next thing, buying the next thing, buying the next thing. And that is also like nobody. The problem that I see now, especially with the youth, nobody creates anything. Everybody just takes and consumes and consumes. Nobody makes anything, and this is really problematic, I think.
No, it's hard to create something if you're totally focused on the next big celebrity thing, and they just don't know it. I talk to people, and they just go home, they watch TV, and then they go to sleep, and then they wake up, they go to work, and then they go home, and then they watch TV again. There's nothing else to their life. Well, maybe
Yep.
they'll go on Friday night to be drunk, and to just fuck some basic bitch or something, or the woman just go to fuck 10 different guys. And I mean,
Well,
there's different.
for the women, the culture is also now just the cock carousel. To be fair, they're just going around fucking guys until they're 30, and then when they're 30, they realize that they don't have any guy, and then they needed to find some guy that's gonna take care of them.
Well, I don't. I think it reached a point where women are not even able to realize by the time they're 30 that this is their own fault for not being, you know chased. Basically, I think they don't realize it. They reach their, first of all, from 15 to 30, they're fucking sluts. And then from 30 onwards, or maybe a little more, from 35 onwards, they just become these social justice warrior, bitter, angry feminists, because they think, well, I was a slut, I banged a lot of guys, but no, none of them wanted to marry me. Oh, what a fucking surprise. And then they just, but I'm owed this, and now I'm alone. And why am I alone? Because of the patriarchy or capitalism or whatever. And I don't think they realize anymore that it's their own fault. I
Yeah,
don't
but
think they
then you
realize
go
this.
back to they're not taking responsibility for their action, and that's a
Exactly.
lot of people are trying to not take the responsibility for what they're doing. I see
And
this in work as well. There's people that just want to focus their responsibility somewhere else.
yeah, yeah, you see this all the time. It's basically the most the basic characteristic of the modern man and modern woman is that they don't take responsibility for their own actions. They want the state to take care of them. They want the other people to share the burden of their own stupidity. It's pretty much everyone is like this. It's it's infuriating, honestly.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I think we should go back as a society and look closely at ourselves and see, okay, we take responsibility for our own actions, because that is the first step, I think, to getting something done. Because if we don't take the responsibility for your actions, and if other people don't want to take responsibility for their actions, you just have to make them feel that they have to take responsibility. Because without taking the responsibility, it's just gonna be chaos, and nobody's gonna do anything about it.
I think it already is chaos. Like, I mean, it is chaotic. These people have nothing to live for. A lot of Christians, or especially the Protestants, they talk about, you'll go to hell if you do this. And these people are already in hell. They have nothing to look for. Their all their lives is going out and drinking and fucking and buying things. That they are already in hell. And that's what I think. I think that if they really stopped and listened to their own souls and their own thoughts, they would realize that they are in hell. That this is hell already in on earth.
Yeah, it can always get worse, but it's already pretty close to being a shit fest. But I think the thing is, what people don't realize, every need is taken care of. You have a house, you have a food, you have water, you can get whatever you want in the supermarket, but yet they're all living in their own hell inside themselves, because there's nothing for them there. There's nothing to enjoy. Their everything that they touch basically becomes ash in their mouth. You know what I mean? Like everything that they do, it's gonna be fun for an hour, and then you need to find the next show and the next movie, the next thing. They
Yeah,
cannot sit down and enjoy the silence.
it's the same thing with drugs. I think it's why so many people take so many drugs. They just want to be in the moment and never think about the the next day and the next year, the next decade. They just don't think about it, and they don't want to think about it. And I know we might disagree with this, but I think we need to go back to Christianity. There's just if we don't, there's no way. We'll just die out.
Well, I don't think I will disagree with you on Christianity, because I think it's a good basic, but I think the basic things that make Christianity good come from ultimate from the paganism that was already here in Europe. So all the good things, all the good celebrations like Christmas is you and so on. And it's just all back from Christianity when they first started, and they had to relate to the people that already lived in the land. So they were thinking, how can we fit it in and make it for them, so they see, okay, it's not so bad.
Yeah, I agree with you in some sense, and I know what you're saying. Uh, yeah, the ritualistic part of Christianity, yeah, it was uh, adapted to European peoples. I agree with that 100%. But at the same time, I think the principles, and this is where I differ from most of the alt writers. I think the Jewish part of the Bible has a lot to teach as well, and I think you see this time and time again when people start to deviate from these norms, and it's not just the rituals, not just the celebrations, it's the principles. Like, if you become a fucking faggot and if you sodomite, you will be living in hell. It's not that you will be, well, you will go to hell afterward, but you are already in hell. Like, you will not be able to reproduce. You will not leave a lasting effect
You
on
mean
the world.
legacy? You
Yeah,
mean leave your
exactly.
legacy? Yeah.
And I think and of course this was present in paganism as well, but it wasn't a coherent system that, because I really believe that if despite race differences, if you leave people alone and you leave different races alone, separate, and if they all follow more or less what's in the Bible, I think they will be okay. I think they will progress, each at their own step. Of I think the Europeans will be faster, and maybe even in China now they have a huge their Christian communities is getting huge because they're seeing that their communist slash hyper consumerist society is not enough. They need something more. They need some guidance, and I think if they follow it, they will be all right.
Yeah, but this is what I also think for people. People need something to hold on to that is more than just their own. But there's too many people that are not imaginative enough to make it for themselves. Like they cannot see, like they cannot take, like if somebody dies of cancer in their family, they can pray to some yeah, some deity or some god to save them or to help them, because the pain and the suffering, they don't want to bear it alone.
Yeah, no, totally agreed. But to the point where the people are not imaginative enough. This is why I think people need religion, and maybe not just Christianity. I don't know, even Buddhism or whatever religion they have in Japan or something. They need some sense of the transcendent, and except for Islam, which I think is just a uh, military ideology disguised as a religion. I think if people need to reconnect with this transcendental part, because otherwise they'll be lost as they are
Well,
right now.
what I think people need to realize is that things that you like, food and water and other things, that you like what they did in all paganism was they would give something and get something in return. Like nothing was free. I mean, if you wanted a good harvest, you had to sacrifice something, and this is what a lot of people miss nowadays. People miss to give stuff; they
Yeah,
only take.
yeah, you can see this in even in the Catholic Church, which is a I'm battling right now because I don't like the Protestant churches. I think they're basically cucks in general. But
Yeah, but the Catholics are also.
yeah,
I mean, it's all. Yeah.
the Catholics are fucked, or at least not the Catholics, but the Catholic Church has lost its way completely, and part of it is because, well, they lost that sense of sacrifice, and you see that Jesus was talking about when you pray, don't pray in the street, don't pray for someone to see you, don't pray to ask for stuff, pray to you know to rid yourself of uh, sinful thoughts and sinful desires. Pray to be better, not to for someone to give you something. And you see this with the Catholics, right? Nowadays, the Catholics just basically pray to ask for stuff like,
Yeah.
"Help me with this and help me with that." And I look at it the completely opposite way. It's if you want to, like, imagine you see some hot girl on the street, and that girl is really hot, and I want to fuck her or something. But don't pray like, like, God help me fuck that woman or something. No, you should pray like, help me get rid of this sinful thoughts, because in the end, if I do fuck that woman just for the sake of fucking her, I will not be happier than I am right now. I'll be more miserable, actually.
Yeah.
And I think we lost this that sense of sacrifice, that you have to sacrifice some things, like even within yourself you have to sacrifice your desires, basically. Otherwise you just
Yeah,
become
but like
perfect.
like what they then learn in Islam, to keep your shit together. Because basically what they're saying, because I know a bit of Quran. Basically what they're saying is all the women that are like wearing the veil are proper Muslim women, because they don't take the attention, and all the girls that don't wear a veil are slaves. That's what how they see it,
Yeah,
basically. But the thing is, they wearing the veil do not excite the man. And then I'm like, okay, so what they said is basically, okay, the men are excited and they're horny little shitty monkeys. That that the woman needs to wear a veil because else they're gonna get jumped by these fucking horny monkeys. So I'm like, well, why do you blame the women for something the men are not capable of handling? Why are they not taking responsibility? They must be a bunch of horny monkeys.
Yeah, it's basically they're trying to take away the sacrifice, because if you see a hot woman on the street, it's normal to have those thoughts. And what they want Muslim men to do is not have anything to look at, so they don't have to fight their own primitiveness. They don't have to fight their animal nature. And I think that's at the, fighting your animal nature is basically what it means to be civilized, because otherwise we would shit on the streets and just be naked and jerk off everywhere and just fuck everything that moves, because we're basically animals. And
Yep.
if we don't fight the animal urges, we're animals. And they're
Yeah.
saying to the Muslim men, "J- you can be animals. We'll just take away any temptation from you, so they don't learn to fight temptation."
Yeah, it's like you just put a child in a bubble and you protect him from everything from the world, so that he can't hurt himself or can't do anything wrong. And I think that's what they're trying to. This is what they're trying to put with this religion. They're making it so that they're protected from doing something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And it's in the end, it just results either in slavery, which is what I think Islam results in, slavery in the end. Either it's slavery for everyone, slavery for the women who can't do shit, slavery for the men because they basically are treated like animals that they can't be trusted to make their own decisions, and slavery for anyone that doesn't agree with them, because you have to agree with them, otherwise you'll get
Oh,
killed
you're not
or
even a slave. You're just dead.
yeah. Well, I don't know that there was that whole there was 1,000 years of Islamic slavery of white people and black people, everyone basically. They enslaved Chinese, they enslaved everyone.
Oh yeah, they enslaved everyone that came past in the sea. Basically, that the Far Shore and Islamic coast. They enslaved everybody.
Yeah, and but they don't have to feel guilty about it. The No, no, of course not, because they're brown. They don't have to feel guilty about enslaving anyone, just the white people. I mean,
Well, the
we ended
problem. This
slavery.
is
It's
this is what
fine.
I see. This is one of the things I've. The white people have the most empathy, I think, for anyone else. You always see these white girls go to Africa to feed these poor little children and so on. Do you really think if Africans had all the fucking money that they would send some African girl to go and feed all the poor little wild children? I don't think so.
Yeah. No, not at all. Actually, you see this. I don't know if you saw this news, but it was a girl that was for open borders and diversity and all that. Fake diversity. She was for all this nonsense, and she went to Africa to Congo, I think, and she got decapitated, basically, raped and decapitated afterward, just because she wanted to help. And yeah,
Yeah, and you wonder why they got her killed. Yeah, I wonder why.
yeah, yeah. Maybe we should change the topic. I don't know. It's getting depressing now.
Yeah. Okay. So what topic you still have in mind then?
I don't know. Let's see.
Because maybe else we have to get some topics and then we'll do another stream and then we can have some more talk because else we're talking about everything before.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Okay, so maybe we can end it here on this depressing note that humanity is doomed, basically.
Yeah, we're all doomed.
Yep.
Okay.
Or maybe
Well,
not.
yeah. Well, it
Okay.
was fun talking you on this live stream, and then we'll be back next time.
Yep. Thanks. Bye.